Good evening, everybody. We want to welcome you to the regularly scheduled Caldwell Urban Renewal Agency meeting. It's August 10th at 6 p.m., and we will ask our secretary to call the roll.
Chairman Porter?
Here.
Commissioner Brooks said he would not be here. Commissioner Warwick?
Here.
Commissioner Static?
Here.
Commissioner Moore?
Here.
Commissioner Allgood?
Here.
Commissioner Cole?
Here. And as we always begin, is there a conflict of interest with any matters on our agenda this evening for any commissioners? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. I do want to highlight a change to our agenda this evening. Before we go to public comment, I want to note one change in the agenda. When we reach new business, we will take items 3 and 4 first, followed by items 1 and 2. We just want to respect the time of our guests who are here with us this evening. Brings us to our public comments portion. And I checked the paper, Angie, and nobody had signed up at 5:58. So I haven't seen anybody but Diana come in since, so we will move past that. Brings us to our consent calendar. Do I have a motion in regard to the disposition of the consent calendar?
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Static.
Second.
Second by Ms. Warwick. Any questions or comments? Would the secretary call the roll?
Commissioner Static?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Allgood?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Chairman Porter?
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Brings us to our update report. So first is from Derek Cooper in RRC Contractors. Is Mr. Cooper on the line or? Okay. Thank you. So no report from Derek this evening. Next is from TS Development, and I see Tom is here. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you.
That's Tom Bevan with TS Development. I'm working on the Commons project here on Arthur, and we're still in for review, and so we're just waiting for that to happen.
Very good. Thank you, Tom.
Any
Any questions for Mr. Bevan? Thank you for.
Tom Bevan from TS Development. We're working on the project on Arthur Street, Commons at Creek Crossing, and we're still in review with the city.
And I see no questions, so thank you, Tom.
Thanks very much.
Appreciate you being here. Next report is from Base Layer. And is anybody on Shane Jimenez or Santiago? Shane is here. Welcome, Shane.
Good evening. Thank you. I'll turn my camera on here for a minute. Thank you, Chairman Porter and Commissioners. Appreciate your time this evening. Just wanted to give a few updates, and I had a few things to discuss beyond that. So my name is Shane Jimenez. I'm with Base Layer Caldwell. We have the project off of 2026, and just giving an update on our future commercial lots. We're in for application on those as of July 24th, and we're in a 30-day window, a process that takes roughly 2 to 4 weeks to get through. We think that the marketing on those commercial lots will start probably in September, early September, so we're hopeful to get through the process. I'd like to give just a quick update on the overall market. I think the end user market demand is relatively strong, it seems like, across the Treasure Valley, and primarily, over towards the Micron corridor on Interstate 84, even as far west as the Costco area off of Cole Road. We're seeing good activity, new businesses moving into the area, fair amount of end user demand in that area right now. I'd say new development demand for speculative developers in this Caldwell urban renewal area has softened to some degree with the absorption of North Caldwell, the Sky Ranch area, and that, that seems to be relatively strong still. So hopefully that'll move over into our direction a little bit further as time goes on. I did notice that there was a bridge accident that was recently happened at the 2026 bridge. And so that was one thing that I wanted to bring up and really follow up on a comment that was made by Commissioner Moore some time ago related to corridor safety, and I didn't forget about that comment. We actually took some drone videography and looked at, our portion of that improvement, and we did follow the approved plan to the T. I think there was some future development that occurred with the Maverick after us, and I would say that area through there, does present a dangerous situation when traffic is traveling through there. It's a little bit difficult to understand, how the lines were painted, kind of which direction you should be going there. And I think, there's an opportunity to address that with ITD. And maybe with this bridge accident, there's a silver lining in that. There was a Compass study that was done some time ago, I believe it was 2021, with data as recent as 2024, that showed that bridge would be recreated and actually widened into 2 lanes, which, eventually could end up into 4 lanes. But I just wonder if there's an opportunity for, all of us as stakeholders, including the city of Caldwell and Urban Renewal themselves, and ITD, of course, to have a working session about this bridge, given the kind of imminent situation of the damage to the bridge. Does it make sense to reprioritize that and move the priority up to get the bridge, in good working order in the short term, but also save taxpayer dollars and come up with a longer term solution? And we'd be happy to participate in a working session with the stakeholders in the corridor, and just wanted to throw that out there as an offer, to see if that's something that would be well received by the groups.
Thank you very much, Shane. Questions for Shane? Mr. Moore?
Mr. Chairman, Shane, the overpass, are you talking about the overpass at the notice exit there that's closed off as of Saturday morning?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, yeah. Was that due to an accident? Oh, somebody hit the bottom of it, correct?
So, I believe so, yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
read in the Idaho Statesman. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, that is, I thought it was from the semis and the constant use of that going over back and forth, over the top of that.
It looked like something hit it.
Yeah.
And so that's why they closed it down. But I don't know, could be an opportunity, like I said, a silver lining, to start a discussion about a bigger, broader picture for that whole, bridge reconstruction.
I'm going to talk to the ITD.
Just a thought.
I'm going to talk to ITD about a simple paint on that road. I went up and inquired about it, and it looks like the line was done incorrectly, so it gives it a curve. When they said really it's just a repaint on the line, and it would straighten it right out. So I think at night it's pretty hard to navigate.
It appeared, I saw exactly what you were seeing, and once I saw it and drove it, it made a lot more sense to me. But it makes you think about it for sure, more than you should have to when you're driving that stretch of the road.
Hey, on a side note, I appreciate the information that you gave to us. I believe it was in June. You gave us a report on market conditions, and that information was very beneficial to me. I enjoyed that, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Shane? I think that's it for us this evening. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Next report would be from 7th and Main developer, Dean Pape. Is he on the line? Okay. Nothing this evening from 7th and Main. Next is Wolfpack Development. Hello, Amber. How are you?
I have no news for you. Nothing going on different than still planning to move forward with plans to get bids and work on the building that will start next year. So that's, I guess no news is just not bad news. So, but
Thank you for that.
that's where we're at. So.
Thank you. Any questions for Amber? Mr. Moore?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Mr. Hilty. Mark, did we get some sort of a legal update at a meeting that I wasn't at on July 20th? Is there an update on any part of?
No, there wasn't. We talked about it in staff, and I thought you were in the loop on this, Commissioner Moore. We're going to do that at the September meeting.
Oh, okay.
And it'll include these issues of schedule and
Okay.
DDA and that kind
Good
of
enough.
stuff. So, yeah, we're planning on that for September.
Yep, thank you.
I think that we have things cleared up with that buyer. They fought us as far as their earnest money, and they've released it to us at this point, so I think they finally backed off, because they were wanting to blame everybody that possibly could be blamed. So, yeah, I guess I'll see you guys next month.
Very good. Thank you, Amber. Next report is from Canyon County Fair. Hello, Diana.
I have news. It's not great. Okay, thank you for your patience. Well, last you heard from me, I was pursuing an engineering and design quote for the project, which we did receive in early June. The cost just for the plan came in at $42,900, which is 20% of the funds available for the project. I became very concerned at that point and wanted to find out a potential overall project cost, which we then pursued. We received on July 10th, which was about 2 weeks before fair, so I apologize for the delay. The project cost came in at $453,000, which is exclusive of engineering and design cost. Combined, that totals $495,900 and exceeds the funds currently available by $284,900. Because the proposed project is located on city-owned property, I believe the next step, that's a question, is for the city to determine whether this is a project it wants to pursue and commit additional funding toward. Given the significant difference between the funds available and the estimated project cost, I don't believe it is necessarily my place at all to request that the project move forward or that additional city funding be committed. Alternatively, the funds available through the URA could be utilized on county-owned property in accordance with the project scope originally presented to and approved by the URA. At this point, I'm providing the updated cost information for consideration and direction. Happy to work with the city and the URA on next steps based on how they would like to proceed.
Thank you, Diana. Questions? Mr. Allgood.
Yeah, so that's a little bit over budget, isn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah, so
bit.
when we talked, there was kind of two things, a wall and a driveway. Would either one individually fit close to the budget, or was it all one thing, or do you know?
I think the driveway is what is really expensive.
Oh,
It is also probably what is needed the most at
Yeah.
this point.
yeah,
So when we put a driveway in, according to fire code, we have to have appropriate turnaround. And it's becoming a bigger project than I think what I had anticipated or envisioned. Simply having a drive into that area doesn't meet the requirements in code. So it's a significant project in order to create a real access point.
yeah, well, that's a shame.
It is.
Do you have any other ideas on things that could happen out there that we could afford at this point? If
I always have ideas.
Well, I don't know.
I-
We have talked about it
I know.
around the city, and I don't know that we're gonna be able to come up with that difference, but,
It's a lot more
Yeah.
than I anticipated or wanted to see. I mean, I think I opened that email on July 10th and closed it immediately and thought maybe I was dreaming, and
yeah,
could open it again and it was $200,000 less, which I think we could have all been okay with.
Yep.
But at this price point,
yeah.
that's a lot of money.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks.
Mr. Moore.
Mr. Chairman, question on our side for you, Mr. Hilty. When do we need to have funds sunsetted? When do they need to be spent? Is that something that's coming up later? or in September
2021?
20th, or- Pardon me?
So this was a leftover from the Caldwell
Right.
East area, which is long since sunset.
Right. I'm just curious, when's the end, when it needs to go?
Yeah, we have been struggling to get to the finish line on this project, with me directly involved for more than a year. And the inability of this to go forward is problematic. By way of background, when the east area sunset, there were a handful of projects that were not finished. And we sought direction from the tax commission about what to do. And the direction we had was, well, if you're under contract and you have actually funded and earmarked funds for the project, then you can go ahead and wrap those projects up. At the time, I think everybody believed that was gonna be 6 months or a year, right? And we're now 5 years on.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was sitting here.
Yeah. And we're still operating under the advice that we got in 2021. We're trying to get to the finish line. We asked the county in December. I sent a letter saying, look, will you just agree that we can be done with this by the end of the fiscal year? And if the money's spent, great. That's what we'd all like. If the money's not spent, can we just terminate this so that we can close out our books? I got a firm no. They would not commit to that. The agreement itself provides that it terminates when the parties agree to terminate it or when the money is spent. And so, you know, in theory, we're in this, you know, forever. But I think given this new information, we may be back to square one. You know, we've been talking about this project on the site for more than a year. And it looks like the latest information we have is, you know, perhaps go back to the drawing board. I think, you know, we need as an agency to circle up and say, look, if the county can't get the money spent and can't agree to terminate this agreement, we're gonna need to figure out what our next steps are. And it's not to pick a fight with the county or to be mean, but, you know, Diana, we've corresponded for a long time on this. And it's in the world of improvements to public property, $218,000 is not that much money to find something to spend it on. So this is disappointing. I know you're disappointed too. You know, I talked a little bit with the chairman about it today, and I think, you know, I need to probably look at, you know, how do we actually get this thing closed out with or without spending the money? Because we really shouldn't be in the position that we're in as an agency.
So couldn't terminated be, we just put that money to the county and they put it in escrow with funds to go with, I mean, can that not be done? It seems like we're just edging this thing and edging it and edging it, and it gets put back. Why couldn't we be done with it, and so she doesn't have to
The
go
problem,
through this?
the problem is the money can only be spent on an urban renewal project.
Right.
And the project's outlined in that agreement with the county, and it is very broad, right? There's a lot of different things that could potentially be done with it. But writing them a check is not one of them, right? We've got to reimburse them for expenses that they spend on, you know, improvements to the fair grounds, the fair building, those types of things.
Yeah.
So we've got to continue to lean on the county to get to the finish line. I mean, that's the best solution for everybody, and having it drag on and on is increasingly problematic. Both, I don't think we should be here legally. I don't think we're doing anything illegal, but this is not what the law contemplates. And it's not where we thought we were going to be when we decided to just kind of, you know, get these projects finished. It's also a problem internally, you know, having to monitor and maintain at the staff level where we're at on this, you know, and budget for it, you know, those kinds of things. And so, you know, those are all the reasons why we've been sort of trying to push the county along, or the fair, to do something here.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I'm sorry, Diane. I've been sitting here for 5 years listening to it and just hoping that we could finish it out. But good luck on that.
Thanks. May I ask a question?
Certainly.
If there are, in our original scope that was approved by the URA, if there are items in that have not been completed, can we go ahead and do those if they fit within the budget? Do I have to come in and approve or get a request approval for every single expense before we could move forward on those? Or is that something where we know that we can get it done? It was approved originally. Can we just pursue that and get it done? Does that make sense?
I think so. I think the agency needs to know what you're going to do with the money so that we can do our due diligence part of it and make sure that it's within the confines of the agreement and the confines of the law, again, as it existed in 1998 when that agency area was created. So we need a project, Diana.
And I understand that. Do I have to wait until the September meeting? If I can identify something quickly and send
You don't have to wait. And I think we probably would want to at least update the commission, but if you've got something that we can get going on,
Okay.
that's within the confines of that MOU.
Absolutely.
Unless I see objection from council, so the commissioners, I mean, I think we'd like to probably get going. Remember, it's a reimbursement agreement.
Yes.
So you'd have to incur those expenses, and then
Yep.
they would be reimbursed, and the reimbursement's gonna have to run through
Yes.
the commission, right?
Yeah.
But we can definitely talk about that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just seeing how things go up and how long it takes to get work done, which I guess we'd be performing part of that work, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say we would want to move on that and not push this on to another year, because imagine what it probably would have cost to have this done a year ago. 10%, 20% less?
Absolutely. Probably more than that.
Ms. Warwick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Hildy, something you said at the beginning of that when you started talking, we can finish projects that are under contract when that's sunsetted. So we don't have anything under contract there. So is it within the urban renewal law to go ahead and come up with something that it was not under contract and proceed with it at this point?
Yeah, Commissioner Warwick, this is under contract within the meaning of what the instruction we got from the tax commission. We have a funding agreement that we entered into with the county for this project. That's the contract. It had a lengthy list of potential uses for the money. And so the contract exists. The county would have, the fair would have to go and spend that money on something that fits within the contract, and then we would reimburse them for those expenditures. So the contract does exist.
All right.
Before we get to Mr. Stoddard, one of the things that we talked about several times was we didn't want to see these funds spent for routine maintenance items. Like when there's a broken sprinkler head, we wanted it to be a little bit more project-based. And Mr. Stoddard, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Diane, on your priority list, is this pretty high then, as far as getting it done? And what are the benefits on both sides of the spectrum here?
I think the cost would be the prohibitive on whether I have it on a priority list or not. What it does is create another access point into the fairgrounds, which I believe is very important, and that would serve every user. That's not just a fair request, that's a rodeo request. It would benefit the college, it would benefit the city. Currently, the only access, I mean, there's a gate there, but you can take a lawnmower up there, and that's about it. The cost is prohibitive, and it's not something that I can recommend because of what it costs. But I do think it's really important, and I think long-term is something that area will probably need dramatically.
So it would probably help the quiet zone program too, I would guess, with another entrance?
I would guess so.
Okay, and what's the bottom line you need from the city then? If they participated?
$284,900. I might be a little off. I'm not sure if we're at 211 or 218, but roughly
Thank you.
285,000.
Okay.
Mr. Cole?
Yeah, just to move things forward, couldn't you just submit a written proposal on what you want to do?
Are you asking for me to submit a written proposal to the city?
Yeah, just submit a proposal that we can act on.
I think it's difficult for a county employee not knowing anything about city finances other than what I read to then request funding for a project that's on city-owned property, if
Okay.
that makes
It would just
sense.
be a proposal, you know. If that moves it forward, that's all I'm saying. How can we move this forward rather than just kicking the can down the road?
I think if there's some indication from the city that they want to move forward, that would be helpful.
So the city would submit the proposal then?
Essentially, I think it would go better that way.
I think correct me if I'm wrong, we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about using the balance of the money on projects that have already been established in the original contract versus building a road through there. So
Correct.
you need to leave us with some definite instructions as to which way we're leaning. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay. Gentlemen? Ms. Walker?
So, can we get the engineering report and the cost report, just on the chance that Rochelle could find $500,000 laying around somewhere, that we might have something, as Commissioner Cole said, we might have something we could bring forward. I don't know even what budget that would come out of, but it would be nice if we could see what you have, and that, I think everybody's in agreement that the wall and the driveway are important. It's just such a lean year that we're, but if you could leave that with us, that would be wonderful.
I have a hard copy tonight. I can send a digital copy. And also, this is a project estimate. It doesn't mean that it would cost this. There could be things that we could take out, but I'm a worst-case scenario person, and
Yeah,
I believe this is worst case.
yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Moore?
Mr. Chairman, I was just wondering, I scheduled a time with Juan at O'Connor to go look at that, have him walk me through it, just so I can wrap my head around it. Would you be able to meet us there and kind of tell us about some of the things that you think you can get going immediately, and I can put my thoughts in that too?
Yes, absolutely.
So I'll have him reach out,
Okay.
and we'll do that. Thank you.
Any other questions for Diana?
Can I ask a question for Diane?
Certainly.
The project cost amount that you just gave, is that for the entirety of the project? Is there any contribution that the county plans to make for that,
Other than the URA,
other than the urban renewal?
we don't have anything budgeted,
I don't know if the city does either, so that would have to be,
and I completely understand that. That's
I just
why I
wanted to ask. Thank you.
am giving information but not recommending anything.
Mr. Stoddard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Moore, do you have a date set up for, you're going to review that with Juan yet, or could you make that available to the rest of us to see if we can fit it in? Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
I guess my question with that question there is, if there's not money available with the city, how does the county finish a project? How do we sunset our funds if there's not money? And if we don't have money? If the city doesn't have money, the county doesn't have money, how do we come to an agreement to complete a project?
Different project, yeah. And
project.
Diana, if you've got ideas about that, that would
Okay.
be
I do.
time to, yeah, let's take a look at those.
Okay. Yeah, I'll see what, I'll set that up.
Thanks, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, it's fine for you guys to go take a look. If we get a quorum out there, it could be a meeting, and we'll just need to make sure that there's notice of it. So keep track of how many commissioners are gonna go, and if we get up to a quorum, we can notice as a meeting, but that would be required under the open meeting law.
I just reached out to Juan myself.
Yeah, fine, and but it makes sense if there's others, as long as it's less than a quorum, I think we're good.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
Thank you, Diana.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. This brings us to our first item of old business. It's an action item. It's to approve the monthly cash reconciliation report from last month. Rochelle?
Okay, I've got a little slide here to kind of explain it. So I know there were some questions last time when we presented the June report, and so this is a slide that kind of just explains the negative amount that was listed in the East Urban Renewal area. So I dived into the report, and the East Urban Renewal area cash negative amount from last month represented the total East Urban Renewal area project costs to date. The original cash balance was $0, which created a negative amount for the year-to-date of $17,224. So when I was looking at that, I thought it might be easier to explain it by making an adjustment, which is the highlighted column that you show there, and put an initial balance in there, because essentially the balance of the cash is the remaining of the projects that we have for the East Urban Renewal area. So I plugged in, and that amount was originally lumped into the operating beginning balance. And so I took it out of the beginning balance for operating and plugged in a new beginning balance for the East Urban Renewal area. I will make a note that this is different than the documents attached to your packet. I was not here last week, and so some miscommunications happened, and some documents, old documents were sent that weren't 100% updated. And so
If you have questions as to why the packet doesn't match this, that's why. I did give you some paper documents before the meeting started. The very first one is the June cash reconciliation reports, which reflect these numbers here. And you'll notice I also included the previous month's project report, so the East Urban Renewal Area cash balance ties to the remaining balance available for projects. And that's all I have for discussing the previous month's cash report. We will talk about this month's toward the end of the meeting, and we'll come back to budget as soon as we have the others present. Does anybody have any questions on
Thank you, Rochelle. Any questions? Okay. Do we have a motion to receive the financial report?
I move we approve the financial report for June.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Warwick, second by Mr. Static. Any discussion? Would the secretary call the roll?
Commissioner Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick,
Yes.
Commissioner Sadek,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Allgood,
Yes.
Commissioner Cole.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thanks for your work on that, Rochelle. Brings us to our first item of new business, which is actually number 3 on our agenda. It's an action item to consider a resolution approving the selection of Zion Ventures LLC as the preferred developer for the Kimball and Arthur redevelopment project. Welcome, Ophelia.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. I'm going to go ahead and pass out, you should have received the RFP proposal via email on the 16th of December. I am going to present that again to you tonight. The only document that you won't see on your presentation is page 21, and that's an exempt, so I brought that. So that would be the only thing that would be missing. And while Elijah's bringing up my PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to go ahead and provide you a brief history in regards to this specific parcel, Site A, is known as Site A. So a little bit about this parcel is this was part of the East Urban Renewal Area. Again, that was started back in 1998, and it did sunset in December 21 of 2022. The Urban Renewal Agency purchased this specific site in 2019. And then during the time that it was part of the East Urban Renewal District, there were 2 RFPs for that specific site. If you remember, there was Site A Brewing who had submitted for that, as well as Aztec Development with their mixed-use redevelopment project is what we have seen so far. Site A became its own district December 16, 2024. We did do an RFP back in February 2025 with a closing date of March 2025, and we did not receive any proposals for that. And then this year, back in February 2024 through March 2024, I had asked the commission for a request for review and feedback. I did not receive any feedback on that RFP document, so that was then released on 5/8/2026 with a due date of 7/13/2026. And so that is where we're at tonight. And so tonight I am joined by Zion Ventures, who's right behind me. I'm here to help answer any questions that I may not be able to answer, or if you have any questions for them. So we'll get started. So part of their proposal is that they, again, within following city code and guidelines, our downtown does ask for those developments to be a mixed-use development. So they will be proposing a home for a restaurant space on the first floor and second floor to be determined. But it is a mixed use and it is compatible with what we ask for downtown development. So here as you've read through your packet, you'll see a letter of introduction. I am familiar with Riley and John through the work that I do. Again, they're right behind me. And they do own property. They're not new to Caldwell, so you might be familiar with their last names. They're not new to Caldwell. John owns one of the buildings in the downtown. You might be familiar with the former Amano building. He is the property owner for that building. I believe he purchased that about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. He also owns other property in Caldwell, and he mentions some other projects as part of his portfolio here. So again, here an active ground use, again, compatible with what we're asking in regards to city ordinance and city code. And just gives you a little bit more of their background here. Again, I'm familiar with the construction company that they're working with, and you all may be even familiar with the operator who they're working with to be that potential end user for that space. This group has been interested in Caldwell. Our economic development team has had conversations with them over the years. Great group. And here they mentioned part of their portfolio for Caldwell, Jayhawk Creek subdivision. I must have had a conversation with Riley or not too long ago, because now it's popping up in my Facebook app, where people advertise you certain things, and so Jayhawk Creek has been popping up on my screen. So it may be popping on yours here tonight, but there's their project that they've mentioned, as well as a project that'll be groundbreaking later this year, and then they also have one that's under construction here in Boise. And so here again, Jayhawk Creek subdivision is under construction here in Caldwell, and this is their Meridian project that they're currently working on, and this is their Boise project that they're working on, and the other one is the one that they'll be working on in the future. This one is to be completed here in 2026, so I've driven by that space. They're doing a great job with that space, and this is what they're proposing for Caldwell. So you'll see the rendering there at the very top. Facade is brick. Again, through these proposals, they still have to follow the requirement the city puts in place, so there will be a design review to make sure that that is compliance with what we're looking for in the downtown. But here they mention site area, the zoning. Again, this isn't their first time doing this type of development, so they're familiar with the process, zoning, the building area. Here they're proposing outdoor patio. Again, that's a very active little corner there. The height, 2-story building. And then they talk about the different materials that they'll be using for their building, the construction value, and the taxable value upon completion is what you're seeing here on this section. And then this is the site, again, the corner at Kimball and Arthur. It's been, like I've mentioned, it's been sitting there for a little bit. I'm excited that we were able to get this proposal. And here they talk about development phasing time. Again, we are working with, we're in phase one here of this phasing time frame, where tonight, if you choose to award this, then the second phase of that will be for them to work with staff, our agency attorney, to put in place a development agreement. That development agreement will then come before you for you to accept or decline, however that goes. But they're sort of their phase, and then they talk a little bit about financing there. And just to kind of, again, give you more of that background that we had asked on how does this fit the overall vision of the downtown Caldwell. Commissioner Stoddard, I think you had a question in regards to Roger Brooks, and how does that fit within that vision. And Roger, as you all know, that Envision Plan was adopted by or accepted by the city last week, and in his renderings of what could potentially fit in that space was this type of building. I think Roger labels it in his vision as a restaurant space, is sort of what he's labeling this project. And then again, talking about the development timeline, more specific to the end user here and the construction company. And then here we go into that financial capacity. In front of you, you will see that document that has been exempt from this PowerPoint presentation. I did speak with the individual who provided the letter earlier today to kind of walk me through how that will work in terms of financing the project. And so very confident. And in his, in the letter, you'll see it says pre-lit, sort of kind of, they're giving the thumbs up for this project as well. And you'll also notice in that financial packet, or in that letter as well, their financial capacity as well. So if you have any questions, I'm sure they're happy to help answer those questions. But as we're working through the development agreement, we'll be working closely with them. And then a couple of things that we asked on our RFP, we asked for this to be, again, with the downtown, we want to make sure that the space is pedestrian friendly. And as you've noticed, their design, it does allow for that urban feel, those trees, that patio space. And then here they talk a little bit about the building itself, the two-story building. Is really what they talk about in this. And again, it meets sort of our requirements for what's to be built in the downtown in terms of the one-story, two-story, and the uses of those spaces. Here they talk a little bit about parking. Shall they go in those two options that they've put in front of you? They're very well aware of city code. I know some of you had some questions in regards to that. They're very familiar with if they just choose to go in one direction or the other direction and what the city is going to be required. Now, as an agency, we don't put requirements on these RFP. Those requirements will come from city code, whatever city code, however city code reads, is those are requirements that they will have to meet. And here they talk a little bit about that investment, how much that investment will bring to our downtown. And again, here we go into the financial capacity again. Again, you have that in front of you. And then here's the renderings that you see there. And then just more on the conceptual site plan is what you're seeing here. And then going back to their portfolio, their other projects, where they're at. And this is Secretary of State. And then that is what I have in front of you. As a team, we did score this. There was, I did forward that over to you not too long ago via email. We went through their proposal, we rated their proposal. We recommend that you all accept this proposal. On that reviewing and rating committee, that was Chairperson Jim Porter, myself, the rest of our economic development team, Dan Torres, our director, and Brian Kidda, our specialist. And with that, I will stand for any questions that you may have. And
Thank you, Ophelia. Chris, your light was on.
Oh, okay. Does this project involve the other privately owned parcels next to it, or is it just the URA project?
it's just the URA project. The other parcel is privately owned.
And it's not involved in this situation?
And it's not involved in this situation, yes.
Okay. Ms. Warwick?
Ophelia, is this the only
Yes, this was our only
proposal that you
proposal that was
received?
received, yes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Stoddard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ophelia, is this, so I understand, breakfast, lunch, and dinner on weekends only, and then just lunch and dinner during the week, or?
So the end user, what they mentioned, the Wild Child, they, I believe, have a lunch concept and a dinner concept is usually what they provide. Now, I don't know if they will, provide breakfast. I've seen, others that have adjusted their hours, adjusted their service based on the demand of the community. So the brand that I'm familiar with, the business that I have visited, the specific business, I've been there for lunch myself.
I just wanted to make sure there's some consistency there, so,
Yeah.
you know, the people who visit there know exactly what their hours are, so, thank you.
Mr. Moore?
Mr. Chairman, Ophelia, thanks for all this information. The scoring process, it's kind of nice. I've never, whose idea was this?
This was our director, so I think during last year, I know we're going to talk about budget here shortly, but last year, I think Commissioner Moore, you had asked Stephen Jenkins, how will you support this new role? And Stephen said, I will guide and mentor her along the way and help implement new ideas, new ways of doing things. And so Dan has really jumped in with both feet and is guiding me through his experience with urban renewal, his experience in economic development. As you all know, he's got about 15-plus years of experience. He's done a lot of these in the communities that he's in, so.
Well, it's kind of nice to see that they scored the maximum points on the financial capabilities. What's the current value of that lot? What's the tax assessment of that lot?
Yeah, it's roughly 300, I'm gonna be off a little bit, but it's 328,000 is what I looked at before arriving here. It could be a little off, though. I didn't write it down.
Yeah, my assumption of that lot today, I think it's way off. I think it's probably double that, if
Okay.
not 750,000.
Yeah.
As the last piece of, one of the last pieces of that whole downtown.
Yeah.
So to call it 300,000, I think that's probably at least 20% of their injection into a loan with Banner Bank. The letter, I think we ought to frame this one. This is probably one of the better ones. It is the best one I've ever seen here. And if you look at it, second paragraph, a proposed conventional construction perm loan has been pre-flighted. That tells us that we've done some homework. Banner has outlined the terms and conditions of the proposed for which they qualify. Sounds like everybody's on the same sheet of music there. Goes into other developments with most recent examples. Zion Ventures maintains strong balance sheet, zero debt, verified liquidity with more than 2.5 million. Wow, that's saying quite a bit. I've never seen anybody get specifics like that. So I would say this thing holds quite a bit of value and quite a bit of water, and it's definitely worth discussing tonight. My last question is this: wasn't there an electrical or power issue in that area somewhere? If so, how's that mitigated?
Yeah, so the last urban renewal district was going to address the undergrounding of the power. Unfortunately, we didn't get to that project. We had to allocate those funds. We had a challenging time negotiating the property that was needing to underground the power, and we had to move in a different direction, so we had to abandon that project. When we created this specific site, we picked up that project again. Unfortunately, the site has only been around for 2 years. We don't have the capacity to assist with the undergrounding of the power or that for the
So
time
who
being.
picks that up? How's that going to get resolved?
That would be the developer in this
Okay,
case.
is that part of the plan? Has that been submitted as part of, did
No.
anybody see that?
So right now, what you have in front of you is that the RFP. The next, if you choose to award them, then we'll move to the second phase. And I think they even mentioned that in their timeline. We'll be working with, let's see here, I think they mentioned this in their design and entitlements. So we'll be working through that process with them as a city, if we move in that direction to address whatever the.
What's the timeline on something like that? Does anybody have an idea how long that could take to resolve?
I don't have a time frame. My understanding is they themselves would not have to underground the power themselves. So I don't know, we have that project here. I'm just going based on, I'm answering your question based on what I'm familiar with, and I can certainly do additional research. But we have a project here, the Creekside Commons, that also has sort of that older power capability, and Idaho Power isn't necessarily asking them to do anything different than how others have accessed power in the past. So I'm just going to make an assumption here that Idaho Power isn't going to ask them to do anything different than what others who have been in that space have the ability to access power. So, but we'll definitely do that as design entitlements, and these folks are very familiar with folks at Idaho Power. This isn't their first project, so I'm very confident that they'll have the conversations with the right folks to kind of get an idea of what that's going to take for them to get the power that they need for the site.
So I understand this. If Idaho Power says there's going to have to be issues that are going to have to be resolved, didn't we have a similar issue at Norman's with power?
So the issue that we had with that specific project was that there was a power pole that was on the actual parcel. This parcel does not have an actual power pole on the parcel. So that was part of two projects happening in that parcel. It was the power pole was on the actual parcel site. And then the second part of that was that alley improvement project that we were working on, that we funded, and I'll provide an update during my project update list. That was part of undergrounding the project. So those were two separate projects that were, or two different things that were taking place specific to that project.
How do we get past an issue with electricity, with power, as it sets today? So if Idaho Power comes back and says there's $450,000 of work, I mean, am I assuming something completely wrong, or how are we going to pay for that? Who's going to be responsible for that? Is that Zion's Ventures? Is that their?
We would have, so part of the development agreement, that's what we're going to have to work through. That development agreement, that's what the staff and our attorney, their attorney and themselves will be working through on what that's going to look like.
So are they aware of that electrical issue, or that power issue?
I would have to ask them that question.
They're not aware of it. So, Mr. Chairman, Mark, what do we do in these scenarios? Because I don't want to ask Rochelle for more money.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, so understand, Commissioners, what you're doing tonight is not,
Right.
doesn't mean this is going forward. You're approving them as the preferred developer, and then we got to negotiate that DDA. The obligations of the agency will be spelled out in the DDA. Anything that's not assumed by the DDA would be the developer requirement. If something comes up that surprises everybody in that process, we might not be able to get there.
Okay.
And we'd have to review it at that time. But as you recall from other DDAs, there is sometimes a commitment that the agency takes on, to deal with remediation issues, those types of things. And here, because of that small footprint for that site, there's not a lot of ability to further incentivize the development beyond selling the property for the reuse appraisal, which could be $0.
Right.
And you guys kind of understand how that process works, and that's a significant incentive. But no, any of those commitments we will be vetting in the process of negotiating the DDA, and you'll know what those are before you vote yes or no.
Yeah, that's great. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, that there's stuff, there's more to be done.
Yeah.
And someone's got to pay for it probably.
Yep.
At some point. I think that's it. The parking situation, boy, if Banner's not worried about parking, it sounds like at another location, they have a business with no parking. It sounds like it's been thought about. I know that's a concern with the bank on any type of a restaurant, is parking, how we're going to turn tables and that, but it sounds like these gentlemen have went through it. So, yeah, good presentation. Thank you.
Any other questions for Ophelia? Mr. Allgood?
Do we have a tentative timeline on the Kimball Blaine Bridge finish?
We do have our city engineer with us today, and I'll let him answer that question.
Is it council member? Should I say council member this one or just Chris?
Commissioner, whatever.
Okay, Commissioner. Commissioner Allgood. Yeah, they signed a contract. The change order was 11/20, so that would be 3 days before Winter Wonderland would kick off. That's their contractual date as of current.
Okay, downtown is so congested already because of that. I know we're way ahead of ourselves, but if this were to go through on a timeline, I would love for that to be done and that open before this next project took off, just because of the congestion down there already. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, I think we're trying to couple the other alleyway project. It's just a fence shift, so that whole road shut down. If we do it now, then we don't have to close Kimball again to do that project. We're just piggybacking off of what's there, and the project timelines should run concurrent and finish up before that time.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allgood. Any other questions for Ophelia? How about from our applicants? Do you have anything that you would like to add to the presentation this evening?
No, we're excited to do the project if we get awarded. We think it's a great location. We've got our users ready to go and excited. It's not going to be speculative. It's going to be, I don't know if you're familiar with the Wilder Hospitality Group, but they've got 7 or 8.
Yeah, thank you. Why don't you give us your name as well?
Riley Werner. Chairman Porter, Commissioners, thank you. Yeah, we're really excited about this project. Our tenant is the Wilder Hospitality Group, who, if you're not familiar with them, they've got 7 or 8 concepts throughout the valley that are highly popular. I would argue 7 or 8 of the most popular restaurants in the valley. They're currently expanding to their original Wild Child is on the bench in Boise. They're opening the one in our building in 13th Street. And then this one, then the South Meridian one, and then this would be the 4th one. So they're obviously in a growth phase. They've been looking to be in downtown Caldwell. I think some of staff have had conversations with them over the years, and so they've been excited to come here. We've been looking to do a project in downtown Caldwell as we've seen it just become vibrant, and such an awesome opportunity came up. So we think it's a perfect match, and we're really excited to move forward. Like you said, Commissioner Moore, we've done our homework. We've got our bank on board. We're ready to hit the ground running and design it. We did not know about the power situation. Can I ask a question on that? I know there's overhead lines just to 2 parcels over. Is the desire that those overhead lines get buried? Is that what was wanting to be happened there? Okay. Power we will need. So, and like Mark said, that it's a small footprint, so it really will only be able to carry so much off-site cost. But we'll do our best to do what we can to work with the Urban Renewal Agency, the city, Idaho Power, to get this thing off the ground. We're really excited. So, and I'm open to any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Riley?
Mr. Chairman, Riley, once upon a time, I lived in a building right there on the very end of that alley, and that's owned by a private individual now, and I had a 2nd-story apartment. There was a basement there, and it leaked water, and the water issue there, I don't know whatever happened there, but I don't know, but have you guys went through everything and did the due diligence on that property?
No, we haven't done any due diligence, right? We haven't done geotechs. We haven't done any soil studies. No, I think we don't have a license to access the property yet, having not been awarded the property. So we've done nothing more than reviewed the RFP and put together our proposal for how we would meet that RFP to the highest extent. But we haven't done any on-site due diligence at this point yet.
Okay, yep, no, that's all I got. Good luck.
Awesome.
Mr. Cole?
Yeah, now that you know there's a potential power issue, how would you go forward from this day on to kind of find out what's going on there?
Yeah, I was sitting back there looking at Google, dropped a little guy down there while you were talking just to see, and I see the overhead lines. I mean, I know that the desire nowadays is to bury power lines and not have them hang up in the sky and kind of be a nuisance. And so I think it would depend. We'd talk with Idaho Power, see, hey, how do you guys envision this lot being powered? The interesting thing too is between those overhead lines and our property is private lots. So like even if we wanted to pull underground power, like you'd have to work with the adjacent landowners. It looks like the building adjacent to what would that be, kind of like the south, they connect through the overhead lines. So the easiest solution would that we connect through the overhead power lines. It could be, those are pretty big poles, so I think to bury those for a 4,500 square foot lot, if I'm just off the cuff, I'm gonna say it probably isn't financially gonna make sense, but we'll do our homework and see what we can do, certainly.
Yeah, it just seems like that would be one of the first things you'd want to do is,
Yeah.
let's get that issue resolved.
It'd be tough to build a building and not be able to turn the lights on, right, or the
Yeah,
griddle.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Riley. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners.
Any last words, Ophelia? Okay, well, it's up to the commission now. Do we have a motion in regard to this resolution?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Warwick?
I move we accept the resolution approving the selection of Zion Ventures LLC as the preferred development for the Kimball Arthur redevelopment project and authorize staff to negotiate a DDA with Zion Ventures for consideration by the agency.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Warwick, a second by Mr. Cole. Any further discussions? Would the secretary call the roll?
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Commissioner Static?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Allgood?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Commissioner Porter?
Yes. Very good, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you very much. Okay, our next item of new business is another action item. It's to consider a resolution updating and adopting the Urban Renewal Agency bylaws. Good evening again.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. Yes, in your packet, or I would say a couple of weeks ago, maybe last month, I sent you the previous bylaws that we've had and then the updated bylaws. As you know, we've added myself in a new role, and so we wanted to make sure that our bylaws were updated. And so I didn't receive any feedback, any comments, so I'm assuming there's no concerns. Again, just updating, we just updated the information, added my role in there as Executive Director for Urban Renewal. But if you don't have any questions for me, then we can.
Any questions for Ophelia in regard to the updating of the bylaws? Mr. Moore?
Mr. Chairman, Ophelia, I went through it and
Thank you.
I didn't have any questions I think that made any sense really. And then I compared it to the other copy you sent. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
And no, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay. Absolutely.
Okay, any other comments or feedback for Ophelia? Okay, do we have a motion in regard to adopting or consider the resolution, updating and adopting the bylaws?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Warwick?
I move we adopt the resolution updating and adopting the Urban Renewal Agency bylaws.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Warwick. We have a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Allgood. Any further discussion? Would the secretary call the roll?
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Commissioner Static?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Allgood?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole? Sorry, getting familiar.
Yes.
Commissioner Porter?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Ophelia.
Absolutely.
Okay, we've reached our first agenda item of new business, a public hearing on the proposed annual budget for fiscal year 2027. The notice of public hearing was properly published and posted according to local and state transparency laws, and with that, I now declare this public hearing open at 7:03 p.m. And we will ask our treasurer to come forward and present the budget highlights.
Hello, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Oops. Okay, so after last month's discussion, there was, you guys had some questions about the economic development piece that was listed in the budget. And so I wanted to kind of review the budget again and then give you guys clarity on what that is. And I also have some information that I'm happy to share with you as well. So this slide here is just kind of a budget at a glance at the budget, an overall summary. It shows our total revenue budgeted, our total expenses budgeted of $506,951, revenues of $209,500. So it does show a planned gap of $214,451. Down below that, it shows where the revenue sources are coming from. So we have our interest revenue, our Site A, the LGIP interest. The interest revenue is the one on the bank account, which I know was also asked before. That is at 1.05% on a money market. The LGIP is at 3.81, I think, as of the last portfolio that I got. So those are the interest. The interest doesn't say checking, but that's the checking account. The LGIP interest is the investment interest that we're earning. And then we have our North Urban Renewal Area increment revenue and our Site A revenue. Currently, the North Urban Renewal increment revenue is our 92% of our revenue. So it's essentially what we're relying on at the moment. And I did check with the county on the central revenue increment. We will be receiving that in this current fiscal year. Because the timing of when I received that information was very tight, the county's had some turnaround, and I did reach out to Raylyn, and she said she thought it was not going to be coming in, and so I confirmed with the county. By the time they got back to me, I had already met the deadline to get the notice out for public hearings, so that was not included in the current year revenue, but I will be happy to say that it is coming in. We don't know the official amount, as we normally don't for the increment revenue. We have to do an estimate on that every year, but based off of the property values that were received by the county, my guess is it will be enough to cover this planned gap that we have, which makes me feel a lot better. So I think that as I get those numbers, I will present them to you as we get them finalized, and so you guys will know what that additional amount will be this year. That being said, I don't know if it will change our expenditure appropriations, and we'll go into the expense side, which is the next slide. So here it just kind of shows where our expenses are going. We have a total of $506,951 in expenses. $216,940, which is the amount we're going to talk a little bit more in detail later, is 43% of that total. So it is a significant amount of your current budget. We also have about $125,000 budgeted for special projects. That includes the TIF agreements that we have. And then we have our attorney fees. Underneath that, we have all of our other operating costs, ICRIMP, irrigation assessments, audits, the administrative services, which is the financial services, and some general operating supplies. If there's an expenditure that comes up that we may want to use the additional revenues received from the central area, we can discuss it at that time. It would probably pose a budget amendment that would identify revenues coming in to offset that additional expenditure, but it would have to be presented back to you as a budget amendment if those funds were planned to be used in this year. If not, then we would leave the budget as it stands and plan to use those funds in future years. So now we're going to dive into the economic development. What is the $216,940 that you guys were inquiring about last time? So rather than maintaining separate urban renewal staff for city functions, the agency is reimbursing the city for time and costs attributed to the agency's work that we do for you guys. We had an MOU that was signed just about a year ago, I think, when we created Ophelia's position that kind of outlined some of that, what administrative services were going to be used by the city. And that included an urban renewal executive director, a little bit of engineering, a little bit of economic development, IT, clerks, and finance. The label's confusing because it just says economic development. So I am suggesting that we change that to say urban renewal reimbursement for city services instead of economic development, because it isn't really just for, related to the economic development costs, I guess you could say. So this is a breakdown of the services. So most of it, 146,000, is for the Urban Renewal Executive Director. That is for the costs of the position, including benefits and potential travel training needed for that position. The remainder is engineering services, is the next highest percentage for their use in making sure that the projects that move forward are in line with design and engineering requirements that are needed. Economic development services is their time. We see them, the director, economic development director, and we've got Brian here who has been presenting, and so the efforts that they give to the agency is the next highest. There's also IT services. We have our IT person here every night recording and providing emails and connectivity in an electronic sense. And then there's the clerk services. Obviously, they're here as well, providing the minutes and recording documents and organizing the agendas and things like that. This just kind of goes over what I just said again. It just highlights the tasks by each department, the amount of each department. Each year, we will look at this and they will likely increase. So we will, if there's a citywide increase in COLA, that will likely increase the Urban Renewal Executive Director position. These other three categories, we did not use personnel in the cost determination. I used operating costs only. And the reason for that is because solely the responsibility of the employee is on the city. If Urban Renewal decided not to use our services anymore, we wouldn't necessarily get rid of those services as a city. We would retain them and use their services elsewhere. But I thought that 10% of the operational cost only is what would be attributable to the Urban Renewal Agency. So so my anticipation is that the increases related to this line item would be due to COLAs for the executive director position, costs and training, maybe a little bit there. The rest would be in standard inflationary operating costs of about 3 to 4%, depending on economic increases throughout the year. And so that you will likely see that increase from year to year as we grow and whatnot, but it shouldn't be too significant unless we add another person or something like that to assist. So how it's currently funded, I know that last time I broke it down and I said this is how much of the expenditures is coming from each funding source. So 60% is coming from the operations budget currently. Now that operation budget represents our additional excess revenues that we've had and interest earnings and things like that that are outside increment revenues. And through the life of the Urban Renewal Agency, and then the North Urban Renewal Agency is our North Urban Renewal Agency right now. So 40% of that would go from our current existing increment. The 60% would go to operations. Now, Central's coming on. We're going to have some more revenue coming in from them, so my assumption is we'll have some more projects coming on. And so as projects shift over away from East Urban Renewal, we will be reallocating the administrative costs to be in line with North and Central and any other areas that we feel probably on a percentage of use basis is how we'll determine that administrative cost. So next year it's going to look a little different because we'll be fully sustainable and we will probably do an internal allocation to identify how we're going to fund those buckets, how much of the services for those departments are going to go into each of the urban renewal areas to fund through increment revenue. But that's how it's funded or planned to be funded for this year. Just making sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. Okay, so that's the end of what I have for the fiscal year 2027 urban renewal budget. With that, I'll stand for questions and then I guess we can open it for public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, Rochelle, sorry I couldn't be here in July for that day, but I did watch it later that night. I took some notes, off that recording. Can I just read those to you? Because I thought there were some pretty good observations that you had that I agreed with. And I don't think it's any easy step coming in behind somebody else, so I think you're doing a good job. I hope they're paying you for it too. So, thanks for the consideration of the 125,708 of special project funds. I feel this is a good fiscal economic forecast, and your estimated increased amounts coming forward in 2027. I like that you're preparing us for the possible situations, and it keeps us moving forward overall in the black and not in the red, so I think it's a good fiscal projection. And if any of my numbers have changed or anything, just correct me, or any of this information is wrong, you could tell me. Thanks for moving operating costs over to operation revenues. They are coming in annually and potentially could put us in the red on our P&L and our balance sheets, I think, and allowing us to sustain ourselves in the black. And I like your idea of breaking these numbers into sections. All same information, but presenting in a different way and shifting 40%, I think you said, to help sustain our expenses. I think that's a good observation to have. Going high on those projections, like you said you did, and leaving us 40,000, in my opinion, to observe fiscal budget meetings. From what I've observed in other fiscal budget meetings, I think it gives the URA some ability to invest, as you said. So I think that's a good foresight, so good job. Great job identifying annual costs coming out of our budget and giving these a top priority when setting our total budgets. I support your idea of, or goal of trying to hold onto our savings and reserves for the future years and trying to support operational columns that are not coming out of our savings and reserves with intentions of URA to eventually become solvent. I think that's important, and I think it's a great plan. It keeps us in the black, so I think you're in the right direction with everything that I see. With that, yeah, and you recognize some downward trends of interest rates, and you're recognizing that. I think it's a good job, Rochelle. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I also, just because you brought up, leaving room for investments. Once we are sustainable as a city, I do plan to increase the LGIP balance and take advantage of the higher interest rate. Right now, I'm hesitant to do that, not knowing. I just want to make sure we're in a good place to start investing, but once that happens, we will likely see that LGIP cash balance increase a little bit, and it's very liquid and very safe and secure. I know about the investments that are in there, and so taking advantage of that higher interest rate as much as possible.
Any other questions for Rochelle? Mr. Allgood.
I got a wild question for you, Rochelle. I apologize because I know you're early in this. So when the commons are finished being built at 5th and Arthur, or Site A, the gentleman that was just here, that money, since the URA is closed, that money will not affect any increment that we'll see, right? It'll go straight to property tax?
Site A is a new urban renewal area, and so the investment brought into Site A will directly impact urban renewal. They will see the increase in Site A from what it is today and what it is when it's completed.
We'll get a small amount of funding from that, is that what
Yes.
you're saying?
Yes, there will be additional funding once that hits the county's books on values. It will increase our Site A
Okay.
revenue, yes.
The other one will not.
Where was the location of the other one?
5th and Arthur, the commons
Is
right
that
here next
not-
to City Hall, right? Yeah, right there.
It's the old east, so it's not in a new area. That one will impact the city.
That one will impact the
Yeah,
city.
the city will get the additional revenue for that.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Mr. Torres on this budget. Can I ask that? Mr. Torres, so the URA payroll increase with the addition of Ophelia, that's been about a year now. Is that about right? Is that right, a year?
I would defer to someone who's more longer.
Almost a year.
Close, yeah.
The benefit of this, how is it measured? I mean, I know what she does for us compared to when we didn't have her, but how do we measure that? Is that through a review? Is that a fiscal dollar? Is it, what is that? Because it's never been mentioned to me.
In terms.
And I went through the, part of the process in the workshop when we were going through that, but I never heard how it was going to be measured with success.
In terms of the part of the budget that is overhead for economic development, is that the question?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's a good question. A couple thoughts, maybe I'll start with this. The goal here is to return and use as much urban renewal money for capital projects and things that provide a return rather than staff, right? And so I think as we go forward, depending on what the city budget is, I think the goal would be to try and move as much money back into the agency and the districts as possible. I don't know how to quantify economic development, and I say it because it's a value add, and it's not an A and B. It's not number of permits processed or businesses open, because at the end of the day, in my opinion, you don't, there's stuff we can do to encourage and help articulate the advantages of Caldwell, but to say that economic development brought this, that's hard to quantify. I would intern in discussions with Rochelle, the management of the personnel, I think, is included in that. As you've seen, and I think I've articulated this to the Chairman Porter, we're trying to refine our processes so that we can be more transparent, we can be more consistent. I think that's a value add. I don't know how to quantify that. I would say that the intangible side of that is the goal going forward is that we become a more transparent organization, we become more consistent organization. I stepped out and I was talking to Zion Ventures, and I said, one of the things that one of our goals here is to uncover all these impediments to development. So should we, going forward, and I'm not saying that we didn't do this in the past, but just going forward, should we be getting these properties at a higher development readiness, right? Should we look at doing the geotech? Stephen Jenkins was instrumental in getting a brownfield grant. That's going to indirectly, right, benefit projects in urban renewal areas as we get those sites prepped and development ready as we identify any of those issues. Again, how do you quantify that? I think that all is included as a portion of that $19,000. Again, I'm struggling to quantify it, but I think it's the pursuit of excellence and professionalism. One of the things that I've been saying is Caldwell is not a town of 30,000 anymore. The way that we operate and do things change. Not that it needs to change, but we need to bring that bar higher. Another example is some of the development projects that we have in our that the agency and the MOU has handed off to the city. We want to make sure that there's less delay, that there's someone that's going to bird dog that. Having a director level position is, I think, important to that. The mayor, the previous mayor brought economic development underneath community development. Mayor Phillips has brought me back under him. So on a peer-to-peer level, I'm treating with Haley in Public Works, with Rochelle, more on an equal basis, I would say. And I think that's something that we can bring to bear when it comes to urban renewal projects and making sure that they're not delayed or they're not given the priority that they should. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's hard to quantify,
Absolutely.
but something that I'm tracking, and I hope that resonates with the commission going forward.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that. I appreciate that.
Any other comments or questions? Very good. There was nobody signed up to speak this evening, and so seeing no further public comment, I close this public hearing at 7:22 p.m., and we'll transition the meeting back to the commission for further discussion and a motion. So, do we have a motion to adopt the 2027 budget?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the 2027 budget as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Allgood. Thank you, Ms. Warwick. We have a motion by Mr. Allgood, second by Ms. Warwick. Would the secretary call the roll?
Commissioner Allgood?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Commissioner Porter?
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Commissioner Static?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Thank you. We have a budget. Next item 5, action item to consider invoices for payment. Rochelle, you can probably talk to us from where you're seated.
We have invoices for payment, mostly operational costs. The City of Caldwell reimbursement for economic development and administrative services. economic development of $17,812.75. Other city services, $12,891.66. We have our attorney fees of $7,400 and a small invoice for Idaho Press to notice the RFP for 516 Main Street Boutique Hotel of $86.37 for total invoices of $38,190.78.
Thank you, Rochelle. Any questions? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Warwick?
I move we pay the invoices as presented.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Warwick, second by Mr. Allgood. Would the secretary call the roll?
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Commissioner Static?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Allgood?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Commissioner Porter?
Yes. Next item is our URA Treasurer Report, and back over to Rochelle.
Okay, so there's a second packet I gave you today for the current financial reports. I've tried to highlight the July section so that you can see the difference between the two. I did not include the adjustment column on this. The beginning balances are now just moving forward. They're the same as what they were with the adjustments included. So you no longer see the adjustment column in there. So we're going to start with the financial overview report. Total expenditures to date is $207,470. That's total revenue to date. Total revenue to date, $207,470. We've received to date a little bit more than projected. We'll get a little tiny bit more before the end of the year, but that number's not going to increase too much now, being only a few months away from the end of the fiscal year. We've got total expenditures to date of $802,686.98, well in line with budget. I think we had some additional project costs budgeted this year that we have not yet used. And so our total cash is listed down below for our total cash balance of $3,028,300.88. As you can notice, the east urban renewal area has a balance of $892,232, which ties to the project report also given to you on the last page of that packet for remaining projects in the east area. Once that once we've completed those projects, that line item will likely just go away. And then that brings us to our actual cash in the bank accounts. I did list the percentages here on top, and so I'll update those. I don't see the Banner Bank one changing, but the LGIP does have a little bit more change that happens with that one. So that way you can keep up to date with the interest rates there. And that ties back to our financial overview report. Total balance on the checking account is $2,219,898.43, and total in the LGIP is $884,804.11.
Thank you, Rochelle. Any questions? Do we have a motion in regard to the monthly cash reconciliation reports?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Warwick?
I move we approve the monthly cash reconciliation reports for July.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Warwick, a second by Mr. Static. Would the secretary call the roll?
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Commissioner Static?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Allgood?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Commissioner Porter?
Yes. Okay, it brings us to our executive director's report.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. In front of you, you should have a couple of things I'm going to do a little differently this time. You should have your URA current project list, and I'll go over that in a few minutes, but I'll start with our district report. So in the North Urban Renewal area, I've mentioned in the past RFIs, maybe I've mentioned projects that are interested in those areas, and really what RFIs for some of you that might not know what those are requests for information. And that is coming from us from the state or from Boise Valley Economic Partnership, who we are members of. And what they do is both the state and this organization who we are members of, they are out there throughout the United States working with businesses that are looking to expand. And then what happens is, as they're having these conferences or meetings, those businesses will then come to the state of Idaho and say, look, we are looking for 100 acres, 20 acres, or maybe we want a building of this size and we're looking to do X, Y, and Z. Those then are sent to municipalities, primarily economic development departments, and then we are asked to complete those forms, right? So what they're asking there, what we've been receiving as of late has been really tied back to manufacturing. So manufacturing continues to be strong in Idaho, specifically in the Boise MSA, and so those have been primarily the folks have been looking in our area. What we do then is we look at our inventory throughout the city, not just our urban renewal areas, but throughout the city. And the last three that we have submitted, they just align with District 26 and those areas. So again, I mentioned here that those large parcels that they were looking for certainly meet those criteria. So they're part of that package that we sent back to the state and to our friends at Boise Valley. Then they compile all the city's information, and they sent those off to those folks that are looking for development to expand their businesses in our community. So that's been great, and I think Shane made that pretty clear that there's been sort of an uptick in interest in our area. So we're excited about that. Again, I mentioned here that real estate agents see this as Sky Ranch 2.0. Now, the feedback that I'm getting from agents, and I did speak with District 26 not too long ago, so I do meet with Santiago every so often. We're going to try to do a monthly call. They are looking for a anchor for their district, right? So there's been smaller projects that I've looked on their site, but they're really focused on getting that large anchor. So that's sort of what you're seeing happening in the North Urban Renewal area. Now, moving on to our Central Urban Renewal area, I've mentioned that there's currently a vacant parcel in our Central Urban Renewal area within our downtown. We've met with the owner. They've gone through the round table, and now they're going to move forward with that project. What that means for Central Urban Renewal area is that hopefully we'll get some of that increment finance added to that area. For this specific parcel, they were looking at a restaurant, building space for a restaurant. They don't necessarily have an end user. We've been working with them. We've had conversations with them. Of course, I'll always throw out, I'm a little selfish, so I'll let them know that we need an Italian restaurant or what have you. And we'll work closely with them to help market that space once, again, it's up. And then our Central Urban Renewal area, as you all are aware, we do have that RFP for the boutique hotel. So we were very specific in our ask for that one. I have been feeling some of those questions. Questions have came my way, and again, I'm very specific with the feedback that I'm providing those interested parties in terms of what we're looking for in that space. So there's been a couple that have said, maybe I'm not ready yet. Maybe I'm a year out to put in a proposal. So again, just being very transparent in terms of what we're looking for and going over that RFP. We've put it on OpenGov, which has allowed, it's not a requirement, so I double check with Mark to make sure if that was a requirement or not. It's not a requirement for us to publicize that RFP on OpenGov, which is a city website that is used, but that allows for others out there that are not familiar with the legal newspaper, maybe don't read the newspaper in terms of how those RFPs get out there. So that is currently out there. That is due to us next Monday. I'm hopeful that we'll get some good proposals for that specific ask, that proposal. And then moving on to Site A, you heard from the folks today. I do want to mention that we do have a geotech there. So as we were finalizing, I think with Aztec Development, we did go through a geotech, so we have that. So we'll give that out to them tomorrow. So I'll get that to them tomorrow. And then Site B, Mark will give you all an update in regards to what's happening with that. And then just moving on to general updates, we were in front of council not too long ago for that proposed airport urban renewal district. Didn't get a lot of feedback back in terms of that, so I'm going to take that as a yes. What that has allowed us, though, and I did give you an update via email, is that one of the projects when we met with the assessor, just to give him an overview of the boundaries that we were looking at, one of the projects that we were looking to capture to kind of give us a head start in terms of increment is already on the tax rolls. So we don't necessarily need to move as fast, and that was one of the reasons why we had asked you earlier on that we wanted to move quickly before the end of the year, was really to capture that increment finance. Now that we know that it's already been captured, we're going to take a little bit more time talking to our stakeholders, making sure that we get those boundaries correctly, and then bringing that back to you all for, again, proposing to you all to pay for that feasibility, help us pay for that feasibility. So that's where we're at with that. Rochelle mentioned that we have an MOU, the agency and the city, for staff. We'll be bringing that to you as well in the future. It's a little outdated in my opinion. There's departments that are mentioned in that MOU that don't necessarily attend, or maybe necessarily we don't need their services for the work that we do. So we'll be providing that to you, and then we'll providing you an updated one so that you can provide feedback to that document. So that will be coming before you. And then the Brownfield grant, I've been mentioning that over the last few months. And this was a grant that our former Economic Development Director went after. And how that benefits the district is that, or urban renewal, is that they were awarded $500,000, and this is a Brownsville grant, on 10/14/2025 by the EPA. That grant came to the city, and that is for the period of 7/1, so July 2025 to September 30th, 2029. And what it included in that, and it's not a list that per se we have to go one by one, but it did include a couple of projects within the districts. So that was awarded to Terracon. So the city will be working with Terracon as that company who will be doing the remediation. We did include District 26 in there, so that was included, as well as Wittenberg Park. So those were included in that. Again, the grant was for $500,000. It does state in the grant proposal that the city would be working with Chairperson Jim Porter here, as well as other stakeholders in that community. It also stated in that grant that our Economic Development Director will serve as a project manager, and he's been doing so since. So that's just kind of to give you a little bit background on Brownsville. We have used Brownsville in the past. If you all remember, 5160 Main was also a Brownsville project that, again, we didn't have to pay for that. So again, we're familiar with that opportunity. And then moving on to the Opportunity Zone, I sent you an email. We're very hopeful that the governor does submit to the U.S. Treasury those recommendations by their council. In that email that I sent you, there was 36 proposed sites. The governor is going to make 25 recommendations, and we score fairly high on that. So if you take a look, there is a list, and it kind of shows where we score. We were pretty high up there. So I'm very hopeful that he moves forward with the council's recommendation, in that, hopefully by the end of the year, we'll hear back. And again, our hope is, and what that really will do for us is those developers that are looking for things to pencil in, they'll be able to stack those sort of incentives to help their project pencil in. So we're hopeful for that. And then During the last few meetings, you've been requesting a little bit more information, so we've spoken to our good friends at a well-known real estate firm, and what they'll be doing is they'll be providing to us more specific quarterly reports specific to the city of Caldwell, vacancies, office, retail, manufacturing, what have you. So that hopefully will be before you in the next quarter. So they do these quarterly reports every so often. And so I will include that as part of my report as we move forward to kind of give you that landscape of what the city is, where we're filling in those gaps and where we may have opportunities. So expect that in the future. And then I wanted to make sure that I brought the Chicago Waterline Fire Station request. I did mention that it would be before you in August. Again, one of the things that we're trying to do our best is trying to put as much information in front of you and working with our finance team to make sure that we get it right so that you all don't have questions. So again, there was a change there with Rayline exiting and Rochelle coming in not too long ago. So we'll put those numbers before you in September and put that project in front of you again. So that's where we're at with that. And then I want to end with the project list. So the project list should be in front of you. We apologize it wasn't included in your packet, but it is in front of you. And so as you see, there's you've heard from Canyon County. One of the things that I do want to mention is if, we're always hopeful that there's projects within the city. So currently right now, Councilman, Commissioner Stoddard, and Councilman Allgood, Commissioner Allgood, in front of you last week, John Prebonic, our city engineer, put in front the Vineyard Public Space alley improvements and sort of where we're at with that. I do want to make you aware that you can move funding from URA within these projects. So just throwing that out there. I'm not suggesting anything, but I can tell you that it's within that East Urban Renewal District. And I know that we can also, add additional improvements within that project as well. So just throwing that out there for you guys to consider when looking at funding. And then everything else, we are getting our invoices for the storm drain realignment there, and then that should be zeroed out. So other than that, I think all of our projects are completed. We did have an in-person meeting with all the businesses that will be impacted by the Vineyard project and the alley project last week, and they are very optimistic and thankful that the city is addressing that blighted alley as well as the Vineyard space. And with that, I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Mr. Moore.
Mr. Chairman, Ophelia, I see the boundaries here have changed on the airport proposed URA. My question is this, and now we have somebody that's we counted on going into that URA is not going to go into that URA. My question is this: before we go forward with any type of feasibility study and pay for anything, what is it that economic development can do to give us a projection? If everything froze today, here's where we would be. Do we do that? Are we going to do that? Is that something that can be done?
Yeah, I think we can do that. What you're seeing in front of you, that's the opportunity zone. Mm-hmm. So that's what you're seeing out there. So that, the airport unfortunately is not within that opportunity zone, right? What map are you showing, Dan? Can you help me a little bit there?
We were anticipating some questions about the opportunity zone. So this is the census tract for the opportunity zone, not the airport. But it's a good question, Commissioner. What we have is the, two clarifying things. One, we were looking for a catalytic project to jumpstart the TIF. That's already come online, so it's not that it didn't happen or won't happen, it's already happened. Mm-hmm. What we do have is the latest data from the assessed values of all the parcels in that proposed area. What I have done is I have the 2025 tax assessment, and then what I've done is a straight line, like I talked about last time, appreciation and and growth projection. We can manipulate that. Again, I don't have that much confidence in my thing, that's why we wanted to hire an expert, but we're happy to provide that for you. And then I guess maybe the unspoken question would be why? Again, the district's a tool. The goal is to make the airport an economic engine for the city. So regardless of the district, which I do think is a key tool, but even without it, we're still going to pursue emphasizing the airport as an economic development priority, and also look to work with the council and community development to work on a special area plan to emphasize it.
So am I out of line to say that maybe that feasibility study by the Economic Development Director or Department should be done first and presented at the very start of any presentation as we did in July?
Perhaps, help me understand a little bit. The thought is it should be done and completed, or?
As far as we can get to estimate what's going to be in revenue, because now we've got to change to a certain area that is already online with something else, so that's going to change. But I think it would help me if I had an idea of what was included, what isn't, what the total is. You know, when we're trying to figure out a economic impact to that area, and be able to talk to people that live out in that area.
No, thank you, Commissioner. I think it's a good question. Again, what was driving it was the urgency. Was also driving it was I had a life event with the baby. Commissioner or Chairman Porter was on vacation, so we kind of delayed some things. But I think it's a fair question, and I think before we bring it forward, we would like to do that due diligence. I'm also trying to balance fiscal year budgets, so I would like to see if we can utilize some of the city economic development budget before October to get that going. But again, the goal is to get a good product, and I would even say one of the things we're trying to do in the spirit of expediency was take advantage of JUB already being on contract with the airport. Now that we have some more breathing room, I'm a big proponent of shopping around to find the best deal. So it might be we probably need to go back and assess where we're at and what that process looks like. But I'd like to balance those two things, the desire to spend some money in fiscal 26, and then also the desire to get good information from the get-go. But I don't think that project coming online, it'll continue to appreciate depending on where the market goes. So it's not like it's not good. It's better than the ag valuation that was there. It just, we won't get that $24 million jump in accessible value from the beginning. So
yeah, which could make a big swing. Thank you.
Mr. Stott?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious, I've been encouraging the mayor to get together with the parking garage consultants and the convention center. Has he contacted any of you two to be on that committee?
I'll respond to that. Thank you. It's another good question. He does have a meeting set up with the one that was identified in the plan. I'd have to look at my calendar, but I want to say it's on the 20th, which is next week. But that's going to be an internal discussion first, but yes.
So the consultants won't be at that meeting though, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Allgood?
Yeah, Ophelia, I don't know whether you or Mark can respond to this best, but you threw out there, and I was already thinking of it, money from one project can be put towards another, and I don't know what Diana Sinner has planned for the fairgrounds money, but I know that the alleyway and the Vineyard Park downtown came in just like the wall, came in way over budget, and the city is trying to make up for that. Is there, if the money that Diana is using, if there can be any of that moved to help cover the overage on this other project, how does that work? Does the county have to release that? If we were to say she spends another $100,000, but we have $100,000 sitting there, or whatever those dollar figures are, because like I said, both these projects are very, very old. Both of them are way over budget.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, Commissioner Allgood, the MOU, it's not an MOU, it's a funding agreement with the county, does have that specific dollar amount tied to it. And we've talked about this before, but just as a reminder, the way that in the east area there was an effort to differentiate that money by taxing district. And that was done when in 2014, when there was an amendment to the plan to extend it until 2021. It was originally going to sunset in 2015. As a part of that, I think Garrett and LJ went out and talked to all those taxing districts and said, we'd like your support on, it wasn't required, but here's what we're planning to do, we want your support on it. And as in I guess, consideration of that support, we'll kind of keep track of what increment would have gone to you, and we'll talk to you about what projects are important to you. And so the way that funding agreement came together, it was more about, the allocation of funds, making good on that representation to the county. So the amount of dollars in that funding agreement is important because of that history. And so I think the county would have to kind of agree to terminate that agreement or to amend the funding level or something like that. Again, now, all that said, we've got other issues now that have cropped up as this thing drags on, and I was a little encouraged with Diana tonight that maybe we'll be able to just find something to do with that. But it really has been allocated specifically to the county, and I think my advice would be best for them to release it.
I don't know the value of the other projects she might have in mind. I just, I'm guessing we won't get to the exact dollar amount. You know what I mean? There are going to be some dollar amounts one way or the other, and if we could use them in their entirety, it would be good.
Yeah, and I just because the city, on the Vineyard project, right, the city's a little more closely associated with the agency, that might be a little more flexible, but the truth is the same analysis applies there, that those dollars were earmarked is not the right word, but there was a representation made that we would be, as an agency, in communication with the city about projects that were important to the city.
Okay.
Mr. Moore?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a strange question. It seems like we have, I know of another project that we're going to need, that's going to need funding, another URA project that's going to need additional funds. We're looking at the fire request that'll be here next month that I had to fill you out, and I kind of got a visual of that and kind of an ROI in my head of how we can recoup that money. And now this project with the fair, with the city, why are these bids, why are these proposals coming in at 2 times higher? Who's checking whose work? Who's not checking work? How is this stuff happening? I guess I see overrides in my line of work. I see overages. We understand, but these percentages, can somebody enlighten me on that? Because I don't know where this is coming from. And it seems like it's a little disheartening on my side of the chair as a taxpayer that we're going to pull that out of thin air and put another line item on my taxes, or we're going to do something. I don't know.
Another good question. One of the thoughts that I've observed in my career is the nature of government budgeting and projects. We budget in October, and then we get all our bid documents ready, and we do it in the spring, and then that's the height of construction season. Sometimes that's unavoidable, and I think that's what we're seeing. We bid the Vineyard project out a month ago, and so I think that's reflective in the price that we get. One of the goals, again, talking about how do we pursue excellence and how do we plan things, and using the Vineyard project, maybe that's a good example. If we knew we were going to tear it out, we probably should have got our ducks in a row and gotten the plan involved, the design and the cost estimate, and then gone out to bid. And I'll probably have to eat crow on this, but the goal is, if we know a project's happening, let's do it as soon as possible, so we're not eating the cost of immediacy into these bids, because that's exactly what we're seeing. So going forward, as we identify stuff, that is something we do want to change. It's probably not going to happen all the time, but as far as we can, we want to get well ahead of the bid process. With the Vineyard project, I think specifically, it was an expired urban renewal district, so we were in a rush to expend the funds. And I think that it did come up $243,000 higher than we expected, than we estimated.
Which part are you talking about?
Just the difference between the $600,000 that was allocated and the.
We were 125,000 lower than the next highest bid. The next highest bid was almost $1 million.
No, but the actual cost between what was anticipated in the budget versus what was the project cost.
Yeah, we were hoping for more like the 600 to 650 range.
And that's fair. And the other thing is, I want to make sure that we are including all the costs. So again, one of the advantages of having Ophelia be both part of the city and part of the Urban Renewal Agency is that there's a greater opportunity for better coordination, better bird dogging. One of the things that we also want to make sure that we're including is the full cost of the project. So, we are paying a little bit on project overhead. I think that's in the costs devoted to engineering. But the other side is we need to include the cost of permitting, right? Because we ought to make sure that the city entity is made whole, right? So we want to make sure all those costs are accounted for. So what you're going to see going forward is hopefully, definitely a better project management and better anticipation of those costs, but also we're going to try as best as possible to have a holistic approach to a project. And then also, how do we, as best as good as possible, make sure that we're bidding in a way that gets us, the public, a better value.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. It's sometimes, and I know not everything can be perfect and not everything, but it just seems like we're faced with some shortfalls that I don't know how we're gonna do
And if I can chime in on that, Commissioner Moore, if I remember right, that like the Vineyard Alley project, it was initiated in 2019. I mean, that's been sitting out there for, and the fair wall is many years old. I mean, as you're talking about, Dan, and I believe with Philly on board, we'll probably get past some of this, but this stuff languishes out there so long, our initial idea is ancient by the time we actually get ready to move it. And I think that's a problem I'm hoping we can overcome.
Yeah, why is it taking so long?
Well, there have been, sorry to interrupt, go ahead.
No, our president says if we can free things up and circulate money through the economy, it's like Reaganomics, it gets going. So I don't know. I just hope we have better project management, as Mr. Torres said, and we're watching these things so they don't come to us as a surprise and put more stress on this position over here and all of us.
Yeah, I agree with both you and Chris 100%, but there have been some other situations dealing with Idaho Power, and when we can get them here to do the work. And poor Mr. Cooper over here, he's had so many delays, not of his own making, that I appreciate the guy more than I can say. So it's a two-sided coin. You're going to face those delays, but at the end of the day, time is money. We got to get these things built.
And Chairman Porter, one last comment. Again, Ophelia mentioned about an MOU. One of the things we want to do is, I believe in accountability. What we want to have clearer lines of delineation so that we can hold each other accountable. Again, in a perfect scenario, we bring a project to you, you guys decide to fund it, you hand it over to the city or whatever agency or whatever group is, but we want to be able to show the accountability and the timeliness. Again, not speaking ill against how we've done things in the past, but I think a lot of things have just been word of mouth and assumption. Not assumption is the right word, but if we write it down and then we can go back to it and say, we said this was going to be done by this party at this time, that holds us all accountable. Is that fair?
Yep. Thank you. Any other questions for Ophelia? Thank you, Ophelia. Brings us to our attorney reports. Evening, Mark.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. I'll be quick tonight. I did put into your packet a copy of the letter I sent to the county regarding the public comments they'd made on funding for the jail site, and tried to clarify that. When I reported on this last month, I couldn't figure out what they're talking about. As I was preparing the letter, I took a little bit deeper dive into the project list on that north area, and I think I found what they were looking at in terms of funding. So anyway, that's all outlined in the letter. I think I emailed it to you so you'd have it more quickly, but I thought it was important to get it into the packet. So I have not had any response to that, and when I do, I will follow up with you. On the Site B area, the we talked about consolidating that with the larger north area. And I think as I reported last month, I was unaware if that had ever happened, a consolidation of separate reallocation areas. And so I reached out to an attorney in Boise, a firm that does a lot of urban renewal law, and asked them, and they said, we've never done it. We've never heard of it being done. We like the idea. Tell us how it goes. And then we reached out as well to the tax commission, and I did get, they said, yeah, we think it was done in Pocatello some time ago, and they sent me ordinances from 1998. That might be the only time it was ever done. So, but we're proceeding, and I've got an outline, I've got a letter to the city. I'm gonna initiate a conversation with the mayor and Oscar, make sure that the city is okay with this. And then there's gonna be an ordinance prepared and a hearing process, and there's some steps that we have to kind of jump through. The one wild card is I also included Brian Stender in letting him know what we were going to do. He emailed back saying that he was gonna look into it with county's legal counsel. I asked for an update on that today. He said he still hasn't heard back from them. I'm planning to kind of move forward anyway. It'll take a few months to get this done based on the hearing notices and timeframes that we have. But anyway, it's underway, and we'll have probably some action items, or at least one action item for you in September to get the ball rolling on that consolidation. And then on the Tillian development, the phase 2 temporary parking, I did have a conversation with Dean and his attorney, Ann Kunkel, on Friday. Dan participated in that with me. And Dean is essentially kind of, the sticking point there was how much was the city going to pay him for that parking lot. We reached kind of a compromise, I guess. He's willing to do it for a nominal fee, provided that it is for the months during Winter Wonderland. So the concept now, and this again is not really a commission or agency issue, it's a city issue, and we'll be pursuing it with the city. But the iteration of that we talked about was a nominal fee from now through March. The city would come in and spruce up the surface for parking purposes, and it would be available for parking through Winter Wonderland. It would then go back to Dean. He would have some right to use it as his property during the following months. And then when we got to the fall of 2027, okay, so the next Winter Wonderland, if he's not under construction at that site, then it would be available again to the city at a nominal fee for Winter Wonderland. So he's basically saying, I'll make it available for Winter Wonderland at a nominal fee. The rest of the year, I would be entitled to use it. And so, Dan, I think you talked with the mayor about that.
I had the opportunity to update the mayor, councilman, all good, councilman register. We seem to be amenable to that framework.
Yeah, so we assume we'll get the agreement brought up to speed to reflect that and get it in front of council probably in September. That'll still give the city a couple of months to get the surface prepared. So hopefully we're on track to get that in place, at least for Winter Wonderland. That concludes my report. Mr. Chairman, I'd stand for questions.
Thank you, Mark. Mr. Allgood?
Refresh my memory. I know we dealt with this, but I do not remember how we dealt with it. It was my understanding on Site B that the owner of that property no longer wanted to be involved. And I was thinking that we had discontinued that as a URA area. Is it still designated as an area, or where did we end up on that?
Sure. Commissioner Allgood, it is still a viable urban renewal area. When Mr. Jinke changed his development plan, it no longer qualified for reimbursement. And we looked at several options. We looked at amending the plan. And it would have required council action and a public hearing and time, and he just wasn't willing to go forward with that. This was earlier in the spring.
Yeah.
And so then the decision was, do we just terminate it, or do we consolidate it? Those were sort of the two ideas. And I talked with Lee, and I said, look, I know that you've been frustrated by this process. I don't want you to be further frustrated if we consolidate yours with the larger area. And I had a very good conversation with him on the phone. He was fine with that. And then I came and reported that to the commission probably in June, and was given the green light to kind of start that consolidation process. So it still exists today, and it would continue to exist, but the area itself will be folded into the broader north area plan. So any increment generated off the lot will be increment available in the north area plan.
I was just thinking that if we did terminate it as an area, it would be easier to consolidate it, rather than consolidating two taxing areas, if it was completely terminated and then just absorbed by the central area, rather than trying to coordinate two taxing areas. That's where I was going with that.
Yeah, and so it wouldn't, if we terminate that area, we'll have a hole in the middle of the north area. And in order to get it included, we would have to amend the boundaries of the north area to include it, which was something we also looked at. But Dan pointed out that the law in the amendments that came through in 2017, I think, the legislature made it problematic to amend an urban renewal area. And if you amend, you reset your base assessment roll. So that's a real problem. They did carve out a one-time opportunity to extend the boundary during the life of the agency by up to 10%. And we just didn't think it was wise as staff to use our one shot in that central area so early in the process for so small, an addition.
Okay.
But because it is currently a separate reallocation area, it can be consolidated. So that's how we wound up where we are.
Thank you. I knew we had dealt with this, I just couldn't remember what we had done.
Any other questions for Mark? Thank you, Mr. Hilty. Appreciate it. Comes to time for commissioner reports. Mr. Moore?
Got a rodeo next week, and Alliance is going to be firing up our food booth, and I'm going to be competing against my cohort here to my right. And, may the best man win, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Mr. Allgood?
I realize life has been frustrating for Derek Cooper, but it would be wonderful if he would show up at a meeting and tell us where he's at. We haven't seen him in quite a few meetings, and I would just love to kind of know where he's at and what his time, and again, I realize he's had a million headaches, but I'd like to hear about it.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Allgood. Mr. Cole? Ms. Warwick?
Well, all I can say is with the rodeo firing up, there's two of us here that are lions and only one that is in another food booth, so.
I feel picked on.
Mr. Stoddard? Okay. My only comment would be, again, to express my thanks. It's so good to see members of this team present at city council meetings. We show up, and I appreciate everybody's engagement in the life of the city and the way it's working. So with that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Okay, we are adjourned.